So lately I've been watching the CW show Riverdale, which is kind of like a combination of Twin Peaks, Pushing Daisies, and like The Vampire Diaries, or one of those other teen shows where teens do things that teens never actually do. So I just thought I would talk about Riverdale and how much I enjoy it. It's like possibly not a quality TV show, although there are a lot of things that I genuinely admire about it. I'm not gonna really do like a review, I'm just gonna laugh at it. And I'm also not gonna really care about spoilers. I'm not finished with the show. I'm like probably got like 10 episodes to catch up, and it's currently on right now, so I'm not gonna, this isn't a complete review, but I'm just gonna share some of the things that have happened in the show because I really have enjoyed it. So it's based on the Archie comics, to the extent that they say the characters are the characters from the Archie comics. I read the comics a lot as a kid, but all I remember is that Betty was like the girl next door and Veronica was rich and mean, and they were always fighting over Archie. And specifically, I remember there was one storyline where Veronica's dad called out Archie for wearing Bermuda shorts in public because he said that they didn't count as pants. And so all the other kids plotted, and they tricked Veronica's dad into going outside with Bermuda shorts on. Like, I think they told him to go to a drive-thru or something, but then they like made it so he had to get out of his car, and he was so ashamed to be wearing Bermuda shorts in public. As I'm describing it, this sounds like it must have been somebody's fetish, but anyway, that's all I remember. I don't know what that says about me. So in Riverdale, the main characters are named Veronica, Betty, Archie, and Jughead, and that's basically all that they have in common with them besides their hair color and stuff. But there's actually some things that I really like about this. Like, when I first started watching the show, I really didn't like it basically as soon as Veronica came in, because it's like, it came off to me like she was supposed to be this like rich, cool, mean girl character, but she was saying such ridiculous things that I just like couldn't cope with her. Like, when she first sees Archie, she's like, oh, like, I'm interested in him because I have tried every flavor of boy but orange. But pretty quickly it turned out that they weren't trying to make her be like a cool mean girl character. I guess they were trying to subvert her by having her be really nice. So the fact that they had Veronica be so nice makes all of her ridiculously over-the-top dialogue and weird swaggery type behavior like really charming. Like, it's like she's just like a really sweet young woman who just like looks and acts like a Disney villain because that's what she thinks is cool for some reason. Also, one thing that's really sweet about the show is that for like the first half of the first season, Veronica comes off as if she's like extremely gay for all the other girls in the show, because I guess they were just trying to like subvert really hard, the idea of like women not getting along and like all that stuff. So they made it so that like as soon as Veronica meets Betty, she just like adores her and like will do anything to help Betty achieve her goals in life, just sight unseen. And then she meets Barb from Stranger Things, and like there's some motivation given for this, but like she's just like, Barb, like, I care about you. I really want to be a good friend to you and just help you with any problems that you have in life. And she's just sticking up for other ladies like all the time, but like so aggressively that like it's not like, oh, I love girls. It's like, I love girls. Anyway, then they hooked her up with Archie, but whatever. I think part of the thing about the show is that pretty early on they just hook up Veronica with Archie and Betty with Jughead, and they just don't really do like relationship drama. And like, another thing about the show is that it's like so fan servicey that if they like write a plot for a few episodes and then they get wind that the fans don't like it, they'll just completely scrap it. So occasionally they'll try to like break up the main couples, but they end up realizing that the fans don't like it, and so they'll just immediately get them back together, which gives us like ridiculous but actually kind of sweet plot lines, like Archie and Veronica break up, Archie kisses Betty, he gets back together with Veronica, he tells her that he kisses Betty, and like in any normal TV show, like she would flip out, but she's like, well, we were broken up, you obviously had some stuff going on. Of course I'm not mad that you kissed her. Let's get back together. So that's kind of satisfying. But, you know, it also makes it feel extremely obvious that they have, like, no, like, plans for the show ever, and they just, like, go wherever the wind takes them. The best character is Jughead. He have the weird hat that he's never seen without, and which he lets Betty know. This makes him a damaged loser outsider from the wrong side of the tracks who doesn't fit in because of his hat. And also the fact that his father is in a gang, but it's like, I don't have a lot of personal experience with gangs. Maybe I don't know how things really are. It feels like the show really wants to portray the gang in a cool and positive light. So, you know, at first they're like, oh, it's so edgy, Jughead's dad was in a gang. Oh, it's so edgy, Jughead is going to join the gang. But they basically make it seem like the only reason he wants to join the gang is because he gets given, like, a nice, cool-looking jacket that anybody would like. He gets to play with the dog that belongs to the gang, and all his friends at his new school that he gets transferred to in a convoluted series of events are in the gang. So, you know, it's fine. Like, in a recent episode that I watched, the gang who all go to the working class school or whatever, because this is supposed to be a small town, but it's like one of those things where, like, it starts out and they're like, this is a really small town, and then, like, with each episode they're like, oh, you know, actually the town is like this big, there's actually, like, you know, 10 high schools or whatever. But, you know, when we were talking about a small town, we basically were just talking about, like, one neighborhood, but actually there's, like, this many people, and they all eat at, like, the one restaurant that exists in the town. I think my most frustrating thing about watching TV in general is how much I love diners, and the fact that on TV, diners are, like, the most popular kind of restaurant that everyone constantly eats at, and diners, like, could never possibly go out of business or anything, because, like, people can't even conceive of any other kind of restaurant. So that's always quite a bummer. There was, like, one episode where they were trying to pretend that the diner was going to be shut down, and it's like, you guys, like, you literally can't cook for yourselves or think of anywhere else to eat except for this diner. What would you do if the diner closed? You would actually starve to death. So anyway, yeah, so basically the town is actually this big, and there's, like, the, you know, the poor high school where the gang is, and so then the gang all got transferred to the high school where the main characters go, and it's all like, oh, because you guys are in a gang, you can't wear your gang jackets, and, like, this is treated as if they're being oppressed. And Jughead, who practically just joined this gang, like, a few days ago, and, like, you know, it went back and forth between, like, he had to join the gang in a really intense way by, like, yelling the rules of the gang, which he learned in a study session, and it's just like, if you're in this gang, you have to be there for everybody all the time, and, like, you have to be really nice to the other people in the gang and, like, support them when they have problems. But then he has to get, like, beaten up by all the other guys in the gang, but then he just has to, like, you know, take care of the dog that belongs to the gang. Like, his initiation rites, like, go back and forth between, like, super chill and, like, not as chill. But anyway, so he just got into this gang, but already he's acting like it's, like, his gang, and, like, he's been in it for his whole life. And it's like, just a season ago, you did not even know what the gang was. You thought that your dad was just, like, you know, an alcoholic. You didn't even know that he was actually, like, a respected gang leader who actually, you know, was really good at leading the gang, even though it seemed like he didn't actually know how to do anything back in the day, a season ago, when everything was different. Anyway, Jughead is like, I can't believe that the principal isn't allowing the people in my gang to just express ourselves by wearing our gang clothes. And he's like, what's next? Implants in our brains telling us what to think? Oh, Jughead. So, Jughead's thing is that he spends all of his time sitting on his computer writing a novel that is just a description of the plot of the show. So every episode just, like, starts and ends with Jughead describing what's going on in a really pretentious voice, and then at the end he'll try to sort of, like, tie it up with a bow. However, given the way that the show is, and that it's not very well written, it's kind of like coming off as if Jughead, like, needed to outline his book before he was writing it. Because, like, if you actually sat down and read this book, it would be, like, the most episodic, like, inconsistent book, and, like, by the time you got to chapter 10, you would be like, Jughead, in chapter 1, all of these characters had completely different personalities and relationships to each other. In chapter 1, the town was a different size, and now you've just, like, changed all of this. And, like, what happened to this plot line? You just completely got rid of it. Like, I know that you're only, like, 16 years old or whatever, but you really need to, learn how to outline your shit, Jughead. The pairing of Jughead and Betty is a good one. I'm saying that sincerely. It seems like it's really popular and the writers are afraid to ever break it up, and I'm on board with that. I think, like, what I like about it so much and what I think makes it better than a lot of, like, fictional relationships is that, like, I don't want to get, like, pretentious here, but I feel like they don't make it so that the boyfriend and girlfriend are, like, representing, like, men and women, and they come off as if they're on, like, really different sides and they don't have anything in common. I feel like Jughead and Betty come off as, like, very supportive of each other, particularly him of her. Like, he cares about her interests, which are basically solving murder mysteries. I don't know if I mentioned that the show is a murder mystery, but basically somebody's always murdering people, and, like, Betty is always really into solving the mystery. And, like, Jughead is just, like, very supportive of her wanting to do this. And, like, she comes off as being kind of troubled and messed up. And, she tells Jughead this at one point because he's doing his whole speech about how his hat means that he can't fit in with other people because he's unable to take it off, I guess. And he realizes that she's kind of troubled and messed up too, and he just wants to be there for her. And so, they kind of come off as two people who are just kind of facing the world together in kind of a companionable way. And that's something that I like seeing in a fictional relationship. It's not so dramatic. They're just, like, there for each other because they like each other. They may pretend that they're breaking up for one episode, but then the writers realize that people didn't like it, so they put them back together. Machen Amick, whose name I tried to look up how to pronounce, but I think I got it wrong, plays my favorite character on Twin Peaks, Shelley. And in this show, she plays Betty's mom, whose name I just completely blanked on. Wow, this is really embarrassing. Her name is Alice Cooper, of course. She's one of the characters who, like, at the beginning is, like, the villain of the show, and then by, like, 10 episodes later, she's, like, the hero of the show. The same thing happens with Jughead's dad. Like, at the beginning, it's like Jughead is so traumatized because his dad is, like, an alcoholic who's never there for him, blah, 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 blah. But, like, now we're in season 2, and it's, like, Betty's mom is just, like, the best character, and Jughead's dad is just, like, the most noble, great person. And it's like, Jughead, why didn't you listen to your dad? Your dad is so smart. And it's like, well, just a little while ago, Jughead was, like, homeless and, like, living in a drive-in movie theater and, like, having to live under the school because his dad wasn't there for him. But now we just have to pretend that that never happened because we've just decided that it never did. And, we may have thought that Betty's mom seemed bad, but actually all the other parents are worse than her, and, like, at least she's, like, fun and cool. One of the best things about her is that she used to be in the gang, the Southside Serpents, when she was a teenager. But now, she's not in it anymore, and she in fact hates them, and she's, like, a journalist, and she writes bad stuff about the gang in the newspaper and blames them for crimes. Of course they never do any crimes. They're just a nice gang who just want to help everybody. So, she does that, and so the gang should, like, hate her, right? Especially because they're always yelling about how they're, like, always there for each other and they, like, never betray each other. And, like, Jughead is like a serpent, never sheds his skin, by which he means that he doesn't want to take off his cool jacket. So, Machen Amick used to be in the gang. She now quit the gang and messes up their lives as a journalist. So she goes to their party dressed up in a cool outfit, and everybody is just like, oh, Alice Cooper, like, it's so nice to see you. They're totally supportive. So, like, was this gang ever dangerous and edgy and something that you shouldn't get involved with? Or was it just a group of, like, nice goths who, like, are all there for each other and sometimes punch each other in the face, but always consensually? And, the portrayal of being a musician in Riverdale is, like, absolutely spot on. So it's like Archie decides that he wants to become a singer-songwriter, and for some reason the only way that he can do this is by getting music lessons from his music teacher at school, who's, like, a cello player. Because for some reason, if she teaches him music, whatever that means as a concept, that will enable him to become, like, a singer-songwriter. But he and the teacher were having an affair, and like the fans didn't like it, so they just suddenly packed off the character, which is the kind of thing they do, and which in that case I kind of support. But anyway, then he's like, oh, I'll go to this like local professor who's like a really good songwriter, and he can teach me how to become a songwriter. But that falls through. So yeah, whatever. It turns out that like Archie isn't that good at doing music, and or the fans didn't like him doing music that much, so now he's just kind of like, oh, music? I forgot about that. I'm now a completely different character. I'm actually running a vigilante group, and I carry a gun around now. I'm not kidding. And Josie and the Pussycats basically start the show by saying, we're going to do a cover this one time, but never again. We only do original songs. Do you know how many original songs they've done in the show? Like one in like the second or third episode, and they only do covers. The characters in the show will perform a cover at any opportunity. At one point, Josie and the Pussycats plus Veronica were covering a song from Rent about partying. Meanwhile, this was when Jughead was being punched in the face consensually by the other gang members, and it was scored to that song about partying from Rent. Which is also about doing heroin, I guess, but he wasn't doing heroin either. They make a point of saying that the gang only deals weed and doesn't deal any harder drugs. Oh my gosh, I forgot to mention the new character, Betty's brother. Mansion Namek gave up a baby for adoption. Now he's in his 20s, so Betty, who is a teenager, wants to find him. So they go and find him, and he's a creepy guy who looks like an alien and lives in a hostel. And when they ask him what he does for a living, he says, fantasy fulfillment, and then he gets beat up by one of his clients, implying that he has sex for money. Now, in fact, it turns out that he is a sex worker, but he's actually a cam boy. And the characters act as if this is the most edgy kind of sex work that you could do, because you're role-playing as other people, I think. So they have this scene, and like Betty is like, why are you a cam boy? And he is like, it's because I have a really darkness inside of me, and by playing other people on my webcam to get people to jerk off to, this allows me to play different characters and express the darkness inside of me. And then he tells Betty, his own sister, that he's going to support her till I deal with the darkness inside of her by teaching her to be a cam girl, I think. And I don't think dealing with the darkness inside of you is that easy. Anyway, I'm really enjoying this show, and I can't wait to watch more of it.